In the vast, unforgiving deserts of Libya, where shifting sands swallow secrets and time, one man dared to defy kings, presidents, and empires. His name was Muammar Gaddafi, a Bedouin boy turned revolutionary, turned dictator, turned global enigma. For decades, he ruled Libya with charisma, cruelty, and contradiction. To some, he was a hero, to others, a mad tyrant. But who was the real Gaddafi? Born on June 7, 1942, in a Bedouin tent near Sirte, Libya, Muammar Gaddafi's early life was shaped by poverty and pride. His parents were nomadic herders, deeply rooted in tribal traditions. Though illiterate, his mother instilled in him a deep sense of Arab nationalism. As a young boy, he witnessed the shame of Italian colonialism and the humiliation of King Idris's rule, which was seen by many Libyans as a puppet monarchy controlled by Western powers. Gaddafi was a dreamer. He idolized Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser, whose bold pan-Arab ideology inspired him to envision a united, powerful Arab world. As a teenager, Gaddafi wore civilian clothes by day, but kept a military uniform hidden beneath his bed waiting for the day he could lead a revolution. In 1961, he joined the Royal Military Academy in Benghazi, where he secretly organized a group of like-minded officers. These were not just soldiers, they were revolutionaries in training. Then, on September 1, 1969, Gaddafi seized the moment. While King Idris was away for medical treatment in Turkey, Gaddafi and his small group of free officers staged a bloodless coup. Libya awoke to a new reality. The monarchy was abolished. A 27-year-old Muammar Gaddafi, charismatic, youthful, and radical, announced himself as the new leader. He declared the birth of the Libyan Arab Republic, and with it, the dawn of a new era. He wore no crown, held no official title, yet wielded total power, and he didn't stop at politics. Gaddafi's vision for Libya was grand. He expelled foreign military bases, nationalized the oil industry, and used Libya's newfound oil wealth to provide free education, free healthcare, and subsidized housing. Under Gaddafi, Libya's literacy rate soared, and infrastructure expanded. For many, he was a symbol of pride and independence, but behind the generosity was a tightening grip. Gaddafi outlawed political parties and crushed dissent. His revolutionary ideology was immortalized in his infamous Green Book, a bizarre mix of socialism, Islam, and personal philosophy. In it, he denounced capitalism, communism, and even traditional democracy. Representation is fraud. He wrote, "Authority belongs to the people." Yet, those who opposed his rule often disappeared into prisons or worse. In 1996, over 1,200 prisoners were massacred at Abu Salam prison in Tripoli. Their only crime, dissent. Gaddafi's Libya became a police state. But what made Gaddafi a global pariah wasn't just his domestic repression, it was his unpredictable and often violent foreign policy. He funded rebel groups and armed insurgents from Africa to the Middle East to Europe. He championed the Irish Republican Army (IRA), supported Ugandan dictator Idi Amin, and allegedly orchestrated deadly attacks abroad. The most infamous of them all came on December 21, 1988. Pan Am Flight 103, en route from London to New York, exploded over Lockerbie, Scotland, killing 270 people. Western investigators pointed the finger at Libyan agents. Gaddafi denied involvement, but the world retaliated. Sanctions were imposed. Libya was isolated. Gaddafi was labeled a sponsor of terrorism. But even as the world condemned him, Gaddafi cultivated a bizarre cult of personality. He lived in opulence, traveled with the phalanx of female bodyguards, and pitched a Bedouin tent wherever he went, even on state visits to Europe. He claimed to be king of kings of Africa, and once tried to merge Libya with other African nations to form a United States of Africa. His speeches were wild, long, and often incomprehensible. He once addressed the United Nations for 96 minutes, railing against capitalism and proposing that Israel be called Israel. And yet, behind the eccentricity was calculation. After 9/11s, the world's view on terrorism changed. In 2003, Gaddafi shocked the globe. He admitted responsibility for the Lockerbie bombing and agreed to dismantle Libya's weapons of mass destruction. He paid compensation to victims' families and sought re-entry into the international community. The West welcomed him back. Tony Blair, Nicolas Sarkozy, and even Condoleezza Rice embraced the once despised leader. American oil companies returned. Gaddafi rebranded himself as a partner in the war on terror. He was no longer the mad dog of the Middle East, as Reagan once called him, but a reborn statesman. For a while, it worked, but as history would show, Gaddafi's reinvention was only temporary. By 2011, the Arab Spring erupted across the Middle East. Tunisia fell. Egypt's Hosni Mubarak was ousted, and then came Libya. Inspired by uprisings elsewhere, Libyan protesters poured into the streets demanding freedom, justice, and the end of Gaddafi's 42-year reign. Gaddafi responded with brute force. He called the rebels rats, vowed to die a martyr, and ordered his army to crush the uprising with tanks and warplanes. The world could not look away. In March 2011, the United Nations approved a no-fly zone over Libya. NATO intervened, launching airstrikes to prevent a massacre. The rebellion turned into civil war. Rebel forces advanced. Gaddafi's regime began to crumble. By August, Tripoli had fallen, but Gaddafi refused to flee. He escaped to his hometown of Sirte, where he was eventually found hiding in a drainage pipe on October 20, 2011. Bleeding, captured, and beaten by rebels, Gaddafi pleaded for mercy. But mercy never came. He was dragged through the streets, beaten, and shot. Mobile phone footage captured the gruesome end of a man who had once ruled with absolute power. At 69 years old, Muammar Gaddafi was dead. His death marked the end of an era but not the end of Libya's chaos. After Gaddafi, Libya plunged into anarchy. Rival factions, militias, and extremists vied for control. The oil-rich nation became a failed state. In many ways, Libya had traded a dictator for disorder. Some Libyans mourned the chaos and longed for the stability, however, repressive of Gaddafi's rule. So, who was Muammar Gaddafi? To some, he was a visionary who uplifted his country from colonial shame and poverty. To others, he was a despot who ruled through fear, torture, and lies. To the world, he was both a clown and a threat, a spectacle and a symbol of defiance. Gaddafi once said, "I am not a president to step down. I am the leader of the revolution forever, but revolutions eat their own." And in the end, the man who ruled for 42 years died alone, humiliated, and abandoned by the very people he once promised to liberate. Yet, his shadow still looms large, his legacy a country divided, broken, and haunted by its past remains a chilling reminder of how absolute power corrupts absolutely. In the silence of the Libyan desert, his story whispers still. A boy from a tent, who dreamed of becoming a god.